All right, let's bring in legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani for more on this. Neama, Comey's attorneys say they will seek to have the case dismissed for vindictive and selective prosecution. What do you make of their arguments so far?
It's an argument, but it's an uphill battle, and selective or vindictive prosecution motions are routinely denied. Donald Trump himself raised that motion in his criminal proceedings, and Hunter Biden did as well. So you have to show that the prosecution was for a constitutionally prohibited reason. In this particular case, they'll argue the First Amendment because of Comey's speech or political affiliation, or the Fifth Amendment due process. But it's challenging, and usually these motions are routinely denied. Now, in this particular case, obviously, Comey's lawyers do have a little bit of a better argument because of some of the president's social media posts. But I think this is going to be more of a delay tactic than something that really has a chance of success. And I also expect to see a similar motion challenging the interim appointment of Lindsey Halligan. Again, expect that to be denied, but something that the defense will raise.
Now, Neama, President Trump launched an extensive search to find a U.S. attorney willing to charge Comey. How could that affect this case going forward?
Well, we know that Halligan has no prosecution experience. Really, the first time she's ever handled a criminal case was when she personally went into that grand jury room to get an indictment. And she wasn't even able to get an indictment on all the counts. So I can tell you that I put more than 1,000 people in federal prison. I never once failed to get a grand jury indictment on any count. So this is going to be an uphill battle for her. Obviously, she's had a lot of resignations and terminations in that office. And, I understand that Comey is not liked politically by Republicans or Democrats, but legally, this is going to be a tough case for the Department of Justice to prove. Setting aside the vindictive selective prosecution motion, first they got to show that the statement was false, it was material, it was intentional, and importantly, Comey has a very favorable audience. He has a Biden appointee who was a federal public defender as his judge, and we know that the jury pool in Northern Virginia tends to skew predominantly Democrat. I think it's going to be tough to get 12 out of 12 jurors in this case.
Now, Neama, also the judge said this isn't a complicated case. What are you watching for once this trial begins in January?
It's not a complicated case at all. We're talking about not the leak itself in 2017, because obviously the statute of limitations has long since run on that. But Comey's statement to the Senate Judiciary Committee, Ted Cruz, saying that he stood by his earlier statement that he didn't authorize the leak. So I expect the defense to argue that even if Comey knew about the leak from Deputy Director McCabe, he didn't authorize it in advance. So you'll see that statement defended on the merits, that it wasn't a lie, and even if it was, it wasn't material. So I think Comey doesn't face a whole lot of prison time, even if he's convicted, depending on whether it was a substantial obstruction, might be as low as 0 to 6 months under the guidelines, or maybe at most 1 to 2 years. So I expect him to roll the dice and take his chances with the jury here.
All right, Neama Rahmani, thank you for that update.